segment. And myself, my name is Carl Beck. I'm the Business Development Executive at Esri Regional Office in Dubai. And the presentation and the demo will be carried out today by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Jack Eads, who is our very talented solution engineer. And we are hosted today by Joy Akini and Victor Mutua from Esri Eastern Africa. So it's a pleasure to see so many people joining this call today. Can you give me the next slide, please, Jack? So these are the topics that we're going to be covering today. First of all, the introductions, which I will just give a few moments for the other people here to introduce themselves. And then we'll dive straight into the conservation solutions concept and show you our solutions, ArcGIS Mission and ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence, and the workflows that you can use in here. So a lot of the clients that we have in the conservation space have a need, specific needs in terms of being able to find, let's say, dwell locations of animals, be able to do hotspot analyses and find out where there's more poaching or where the animals are being tracked, to do blind spot analyses to figure out if you have CCTVs, for example, on your perimeter, what locations are well covered and what locations are not so well covered, and where would it be more sensible to place additional CCTVs. To be able to do spatial temporal analyses to figure out migration of animals and poaching as well. So these are some of the key sort of challenges that we see in the conservation space and that we're trying to address with the solutions that we will present to you guys today. Additionally, in ArcGIS Mission, we will show you how you will be able to use ArcGIS Mission as a situational awareness and mission management software. And the good thing about ArcGIS Mission is that it ties into the whole ArcGIS ecosystem, which means that you can reuse and leverage the existing data that you might have in your existing ArcGIS infrastructure. So this provides you with a more comprehensive understanding of the operating environment, and it's very easy for you to communicate, track, and monitor with your team members and coordinate what goes on in the field and share data back and forth between the field and the headquarters. So that's a high-level overview of what we're going to be covering today. With that, I think I'm going to let Jack introduce himself, and I'll leave the microphone to you, Jack. Thank you so much.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Carl. I'll try and turn my video on for a split second, but I'm not quite sure how much that's adding to the effect due to that window. But yeah, nice to speak to you all today. I think this is the first time for everyone. I don't recognize any of the names of the call, at least. But I'm a solution engineer working out the Dubai office for Esri, and to support Carl for national security and counts. So law enforcement, defense and intelligence primarily. But we're going to have a look today at how the law enforcement and the intelligence solutions could be leveraged by you guys potentially in order to counteract poaching that goes on around the reserves in Africa. So these are some of the typical challenges, and we'll look at how these can be counteracted. So this is this kind of generic intelligence cycle that we have. In fact, sorry, before I continue, I'm not sure, Victor and Joy, do you want to make a quick introduction? So I realized I kind of carried on there.
Okay. So Wadubs.
How the co-host? You are the co-host.
Asi ni mimi na Joy. Alafu hao si wengine.
Victor, you're going to introduce yourself, or Joy as well?
Hi, Jack. And Carl, yes, and everyone, thank you so much for creating time to show up to this webinar. My name is Joy Akini, and I'm the industry lead for natural resources, specifically in charge of PAM in the Eastern African space. I'm based at the Nairobi office. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much, Joy. Victor, do you want to add a few words about yourself as well?
Hi everyone, my name is Victor Mutua, in charge of marketing and comms, and I've been doing this webinar business since the start of the pandemic, so very happy to be able to keep in touch with our users, and I'm looking forward to this session as well. welcome. I guess it's your first time this side, as well as most of the attendees. So thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I think I'll dive into it there then. So this is a kind of generic intelligence cycle that we have. And this is the same pattern of use for conservation as it is law enforcement, as it is the military. Basically, we've got multiple phases and it works iteratively. Incidents are being reported or detected. There's some sort of intelligence fusion going on. This is then fed into the awareness stage, so things like dashboards and reports for commanders and decision makers. Then move forward to the planning phase. And I've highlighted this in yellow, as this is the one that GIS has traditionally been involved with since the year dot. Then move forward. Once you've decided, once you've realized what's going on, you want to be able to respond to it. So this is your tactical situation out on the ground. After it's been responded to, either successfully or unsuccessfully, you move into analysis phase. And this gets fed back into the start, into the intelligence fusion, and it works in an iterative cycle. And on top of that, you've got an optional extra of community awareness, letting the general public know what's taking place. And this is important now, as GIS has already traditionally been involved in the planning stage, we actually can augment and be involved with every stage of this intelligence cycle now. It's no longer just desktop software, it's an enterprise solution in its own right. And in particular, with regards to that, are two solutions that we're going to talk about today, or two products. And those are ArcGIS Mission and ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence. So that's our tactical awareness solution, ArcGIS Mission, and also our desktop solution, ArcGIS Pro, but with our intelligence face on top of it. And the first one we're going to look at today is ArcGIS Mission. So what is ArcGIS Mission? And I should probably apologize for reading verbatim from this slide, but ArcGIS Mission is a focused, tactical, situational awareness experience that provides organizations with a comprehensive understanding of the operating environment. And the key takeaway from that slide is the words situational awareness. It gives you that 360 view of what's taking place throughout your national park or wherever it may be. And there's three components of this. The first part, you have the mission manager. So that's the person in the operations center, the commander in the operations room, the administrator that needs an overview of what's taking place around the boundaries of the park. You have mission responder. So that's on mobile device, on iOS or Android. And these are your park rangers or your law enforcement officials that need to know what's going on with awareness and how to respond to it. And this is facilitated by a component, ArcGIS Mission Server, that allows communications to take place between these two groups. But also, and a key point to take away, is everything is stored by Mission Server. All the chats, all the tracks that people have taken, all the communications. So you can look back on this. This information isn't lost. You can do post-incident analysis on top of all this data. So this is essentially one platform. It's one platform, it's one data set, it's one ecosystem, but you have multiple views, depending on if you're a commander or you're using a mobile device. And this can be used across every domain within the organization with regards to counter poaching. And then this gives you a future-proof backend to build on top of all the same data set and the same system. This gives you tactical awareness through things like the live tracking and the geo messages, and you'll see that in the demonstration in just a second. But also allows peer-to-peer communication to take place. So all the park rangers that are on the mission itself can communicate with each other in private chats. They can communicate with the mission, with the operations command. They can communicate with just a call sign if that needs to be designated. So they've got those options within it. And ultimately, what this allows you to do is improve your understanding and give you that 360 view of what's taking place within your national park. So I'll jump in and give a demonstration so you can get a look and feel of what ArcGIS Mission is all about. So hopefully my screen is still sharing, but there should be ArcGIS Mission in front of you, but please let me know if this isn't the case. Okay, I'll take that as a good sign. So essentially, we've had to do this demonstration on the hypothetical Dubai National Park. Unfortunately, there's no way of spoofing the location within Mission Responder. Otherwise, we would have liked to have done a demonstration in a slightly more relevant place. But it should still give you a good overview and a look and feel of what the software is like. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have 3 people within the mission themselves. We have me as mission manager here, and we have 2 more locations. So Field Walker 1, Fieldworker 2, and you can see their locations from here. So that's myself and Carl as well. And we also, within this view, have your traditional GIS application. It's got multiple views for switching the base mapping, traditional mapping and imagery. And we also have any data from our ArcGIS server that's going to be relevant for us for this mission. So we have the park boundary itself shown in green, the Dubai National Park. We have the patrol zones themselves. We have points of interest. So that's things like local medical facilities, local communications towers, local water holes, potentially tourism spots. So anything that would be useful for me to know as the commander, and also useful for the park rangers out on the ground to have within the same application. We've also got within here MODIS captures. So that's thermal imagery capturing wildfires that have taken place within the last 48 hours. If we go out into the bushland a little bit, be able to see some red dots appear showing those locations. Again, this is just mock data that we've put together. So that could come in from ArcGIS Online. There's live data as a live data stream. And we'd also have incidents within the last 48 hours, potentially showing the problem spots you've got and the areas that you need to respond to. And as well as within this, we have the chat function. So over towards the right of the screen, you can see all the chat that's taken place between the rangers themselves, also with the operations center. We've also got the ability to divide people into fire teams or into different subsections. In this case, we've got only one call sign, Charlie 10. If this was a larger mission, we can indeed have multiple of these. And if I just share my mobile phone, I'll show you what mission responder looks like. So this is the view that the park ranger would have. So this is myself as Fieldworker 1. And I've got the option within here for sending chats. So if I want to talk to potentially just Carl or potentially just to mission manager, I've got the option for doing so. In this case, I'll send it out to the whole Charlie 10 fire team. And send my message. And that'll be visible within a matter of seconds within Mission Manager. I've also got the option for creating reports. In fact, you'll see that appear in a second on the chat, but I'll give myself a task first. So Mission Manager can then see all these people out on the patrols and throughout the park and can task them. So say some intelligence comes in, we've got some suspicious activity, we've had some evidence being collected that there's been a potential breach at the boundary of the park, we could then create a task. So if I want to task Fieldworker 2, that's myself, I can assign a location. So say there's been a breach of the boundary here. I can tell him what the incident is. I can set a priority. So this is critical in this instance, when it needs to be completed by. I can create that, and instantly within Mission Responder, I'll receive a notification saying there's something I need to respond to and give me the location of that incident itself. That'll just take a matter of seconds. It's near real time, but not quite real time, so it may take 2 or 3 seconds to appear within here. Waiting for that though, I can show you the reporting feature. So when I've been assigned to that task, I can go potentially intercept those poachers, find the evidence, whatever it may be. Once I'm there, I can then create a report. So in this instance, I may have found the suspects, I may have made an arrest. Report that I found that suspect. I then got the option of attaching a document or potentially taking a photo with my Android or iOS device. In this case, a selfie of myself. I can send that. That'll be instantly uploaded into Mission Manager itself. It's been uploaded successfully. If I just refresh this, actually, as I say, it's near real time, if not quite real time, so just skip forward for the demonstration purposes. We'll be able to see that report's been captured within Mission Manager itself. So we have the report that I've just uploaded into the system. And indeed, if I go to this tab here, I'll be able to see all the reports that have been taken in. and they'll be able to see that document that I've just uploaded into the ArcGIS ecosystem to be taken on. We've also got the option within here of looking at tracks. So if I turn those on, I'll be able to see all the movement that's been taken over the last 24 hours by my rangers out on the ground themselves. As you can see here, field worker 1 in particular has been particularly busy around the national park. And I've got the options as this started to scale up and we got more data. Obviously this example is only with 2 of us. We could turn that into a heat map, and that would allow you to gain a quick understanding of the busy areas of the park over the past 24 hours. Again, not quite as effective with just a few tracks. I'll switch back to the default view. And as I mentioned earlier, an important thing to note with ArcGIS Mission is that this is all saved. All this data, all the reports that have taken place, all the chats, even if they're private chats between rangers, and the tracks themselves are all saved within the ArcGIS Mission server. And this means this information isn't lost. You can go back into that and you can do post-incident analysis. But another thing you can do with it is looking at playback of the mission, looking at how it went right, how it went wrong, doing a playback minute by minute, hour by hour, if you wanted to. So in this instance, instead of looking at the past 24 hours, we can look at just till yesterday, till 7 o'clock this morning, apply that, and that would actually filter out our messages, our tasks, and even our tracks. In fact, not quite as effective with the tracks as those were made yesterday, but it would give you a snapshot view of what that looked like during that period yesterday. And you could do that at any point for as long as the mission has been awake and been alive and been active. So if I just switch back and make it live again. And on top of this, you've got options for managing this within Mission Manager as well. So if I want to upload any additional documents, if I potentially want to upload a picture of the suspect, or if I want to upload an email that people who are using their mobile devices might want to get a hold of, I can upload a picture of that suspect into the system, and anybody using that mobile device will be able to have a look at him instantly. Oh, that's a duplicate name, but essentially we could upload those into the server. And we've also got a number of templates for building dashboards on top of this. So to give you another view of the situational awareness that's taking place, we have a dashboard showing the status of my park rangers out there. We can see the tracks for the last 24 hours. We see the tasks that they've been assigned, the tasks that they've still got open, the tasks that they still need to complete. And along with that, we've got things like the battery life and the distance they've traveled within the last 24 hours. They're really giving you that full 360 view. And again, it's important to note all this data isn't lost. It isn't just kept within ArcGIS Mission. This is uploaded back into the ArcGIS ecosystem, and we can take this away and start to form analysis on top of this. And that's what we'll start to do now in the next segment of the presentation, which is looking at ArcGIS Pro for intelligence. So I'll just switch back to the PowerPoint. And in fact, there's a natural break there, so please jump in with any questions you have at this point. If not, I'll continue and have a look at Pro for Intelligence. Okay, good to go, I think. And I should probably note one key takeaway from that as well. This is version 1.0 of ArcGIS Mission that I've been demoing. 1.1 comes out within the next 3 weeks. In the next release, we're going to have new functionalities on top of this. We're going to have some more analytics actually available within Mission Manager. So we'll have the ability to find when an incident has been reported, we'll be able to find the closest responder to that incident, so the closest ranger to be able to deal with it. And a few more buttons added in there as well within Mission Responder. A particular one is the distress button. So if he comes into trouble out on the ground, you can press the distress button. Everyone on the mission and mission commander knows exactly where it is, and it highlights that on the map as an alert. But I'll continue at this point and we'll have a look at ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence and how that data comes out the back end. We can start to fuse that together and make derive intelligence from it. So switching gears then, ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence. You may be familiar with ArcGIS Pro, and this is our flagship desktop software. And this is essentially ArcGIS Pro that's been tailored specifically for intelligence analysts. It allows it to be accessible, it allows it to be more intuitive than ArcGIS Pro, and it really brings to the forefront those tools used by intelligence, law enforcement, and military analysts to give them value from the data they have. So the functionalities we have within there, the ability to ingest and manage data, the ability then to visualize all this intelligence in multiple different ways and multiple different views. We can then perform high-end analysis upon it and extract value, things like spatial, temporal, predictive analysis on top of the our crime and our poaching incidents themselves. And at the end of this all, we want to be able to share this. So we want to be able to share this as intelligence products, be they web applications, be they briefing products, or be they old-fashioned hard copy mapping. So here you have a few examples of the multiple views you can have, traditional mapping, also more modern charting options we have within there, breaking things down temporally. We've also got the ability to do some link charting if you have personnel data you want to dig into. And so the intelligence tools we have at ArcGIS Pro are really brought to the forefront. So these are things looking at movement tracking, looking at things like cell phone analytics, and really being able to extract value from the movement data or the tracks that you have. We've also got traditional military tools brought in there that we can make sense of as well. So everything that intelligence analysts has traditionally used our system for are brought to the forefront. So as well as the intelligence tools, we've also got law enforcement and crime analyst tools brought in there as well. So this is looking at things like crime series or doing predictive analysis on top of those incidents you have. Things like 80-20 rule, finding where the 20% problem incidents are causing 80% of the problem themselves. And so I'll go in and give a quick demonstration of ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence and how this could potentially be used. And so the scenario we've looked at for this one, we've changed from Dubai, as you may have noticed, and we've moved to East Africa itself, to the Serengeti, and looking at how we can build up our intelligence picture from the data we have. And this would start off in much the same way as any analysis would do. We would look at building it up with those foundational GIS layers that we already have within our organization. And though these might not seem obviously pertinent to intelligence analysts, they do help us build up the picture because nothing exists in a vacuum. Tobler's law says everything is related to everything else, but near things are more related than distant things. And this is very true. We need to get those foundational, fundamental layers together in order to do the high-end analysis at the end. So we have the protected area of our national park itself, the Serengeti. We've also got a hydrology layer, any rivers that we have within the area itself. Our roads and tracks, potentially we would definitely be using and potentially could provide accessibility for the poachers if they're using vehicles. We have our land coverage data to give us a better understanding of what the land looks like out there. It's all the way down from the dry grasslands to the more jungle areas in the high southeast of the area. We also have our migration patterns. If we have this live data that's been captured, we can feed this straight into ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence and start to make sense of this. So I'll just turn the time enable off. You'll see that this is a massive data, 100,000 points captured from every migration since 2013. This is time aware though, and we have it time sensitive within the software itself. So if I want to split this down by week or potentially by month, we can actually go through and do a play-by-play and see how this migration happened. And we can see it start to spread from north to south. And again, this isn't a pattern that was immediately obvious to us just from looking at geographically. We have to look at it temporally as well in order to be able to get a full understanding of what's taking place. We've also got the livestock paths, potentially used by poachers and particularly by agricultural workers to gain access to the national park itself, something we need to know about where they are in order to look for vulnerable points. We've got the pens themselves around the edge that show us the vulnerable areas where the agriculture touches the national park itself and where our vulnerable points are. Also our high ground, we've got our COPs that give us, we might be able to use for visibility purposes. And lastly, as we saw in ArcGIS Mission, we've got those same points of interest. Things like local medical stations, local law enforcement, our watering holes, our tourism spots, anything that would be relevant for us and needed to know for us with regards to anti-poaching. So now we build up a foundational picture, we can start to bring in those live layers. So again, we could bring in the live file locations taken from ArcGIS Online. those wildfires that have been detected in the last 48 hours. And though there's none at the moment in the Serengeti, if we switch up and have a look at northern Uganda, we'll see there's an abundance of wildfires that have actually taken place within the last 48 hours, as told by these red dots. And these are important. These are indicative of where poachers might be. They quite often set off fires. So again, this is useful information for anyone involved within the organization. Return to the Serengeti, we could also have a look at the burn index, which would give us an idea of how the land looks and our potential vulnerable areas within the past 48 hours. So again, white areas particularly susceptible to wildfire. So now that we have an understanding of what the ground out there looks like, we start to pull in that data from ArcGIS Mission. The first thing we might want to have a look at is our patrol tracks. So the locations that our park rangers have been over the past week or so. And again, this is temporally aware. So if we just select by the past few days, we can have a look and see the patterns we've been starting to build up and the areas that we're covering well. And just as importantly as that, the areas that we're not covering well. These shows our vulnerable points and potential where we're going to be susceptible, where we need to start making mitigations. And as well as this, these can be, we can give ourselves a quick visual indicator of how this is going by building ourselves a heat map. And again, we can see the areas that we're covering well and those areas of the parkland we're not covering well. Again, we don't want this data to exist in a vacuum. So we pull in those live incidents and those reports that we've captured from ArcGIS Mission. And they start to give us a picture of the activity that's taken place within the Serengeti within the last 3 months. We might want to dig into this further, however. Much like the migration patterns, we might want to have a look at this temporally. So if we have a look at this in conjunction with our patrols, we can see the pattern themselves that started to build up. And indeed, if we go back to the end of December, we can see that there is a pattern in that the incidents appeared to be more towards the southern edge, extent of the parkland, and seem to be gradually moving north along that western edge of the Serengeti. That seems to be a profile appearing, or a signature that we might want to investigate further. This could potentially be the same number or the same gang of people doing this. We're starting to pick up an MO from this activity. So we decide that this is interesting to look at temporally, and we start to take a deeper look into this. One way we can do this is start to build a timeline, and that will give us a quick visual indicator of the temporal spread. So we've got incidents in December on the left, all the way to the more recent in February. And we can immediately see that activity does indeed seem to have been intensifying in recent months. We might want to dig into this further again. We can do this by breaking it down by other data types we have within here. So if we want to break this down by the call sign that have been of those users of ArcGIS Mission have tagged the data with. And we can break that down into 4 distinct tracks. And those are by our 4 distinct call signs. So here we have Charlie 30. We can highlight these incidents. So turn the temporal layer off. We can see that this call sign here appears to be covering the western extent of the parkland. If I have a look at this call sign here, we see that activity, particularly in recent weeks, appears to have been picking up. And they seem to be covering this area of the park to the north here. If I highlight this one, I can see that these are patrolling the central area and activity has not been too frequent within recent weeks. We might want to dig into this further, and we've got other charting options available within here. We can start to make further sense of this. So potentially we can start to look at the activity by month. We can immediately see that activity was indeed busier over January itself. If we break this down again, we can start to have a look at days of the week. And we see that activity is particularly likely to happen on a Tuesday and a Thursday. We do have a partial absence of the normal on a Saturday and Sunday. It appears to be quieter at weekends. We might want to investigate why this is. What is the signature in the data that we're starting to pick up? And what is the MO of the poachers themselves? Again, if we break this down by time of day, we can see that most incidents are taking place, or a lot of incidents are taking place between 4 in the morning and 11 in the morning, particularly towards the west of the park in this area around here. Again, no activity in the middle of the day, a lot of activity taking place between 7 at night and 11, again on the west of the park. Why is this? Potentially because they're doing it under cover of darkness. We might start to get an idea of how these guys operate and then start to mitigate for this. So I'm not sure was there was a question then. Okay. So moving on. So we've started to build up and started to make sense of that data that we've captured by ArcGIS Mission.
Sorry to interrupt. There's one question on the chat section.
Okay, sorry, yeah, just switching back to have a look now. The audio and video capability. Is this with regards to capturing live audio and video, as in it's got the ability at the moment to capture a photograph, but you're looking to make a recording from out on the ground? One of the things that's on the roadmap at the moment is for drone integration. So if you do have drones covering your national park or potentially even CCTV cameras, if they're MISB compliant, then we're looking at being able to incorporate that into Mission Responder. So that would be integrated into the mobile device. And in fact, I'll give a demonstration in a second of how that works within ArcGIS Pro, but we're going to bring that capability into Mission as well, both within Mission Manager and within Mission Responder. I'm not sure if that's quite covered his question. Please let me know if that wasn't what you're after. Okay, well, we'll have a bit of a time for questions at the end, so hopefully I'll be able to come back to that one. But we started to build up an intelligence picture from that information that we've captured from Mission. And now we move forward into the planning phase. How can we mitigate for what we see happening? And we've seen from that intelligence, we're particularly susceptible along the western extent of the Serengeti. We might want to look at placing sensors in order to mitigate for this. So we can look in and potentially look at camera locations in order to cover this western edge here. So we can look at the locations themselves, but we can go one further than that. We can actually model this by a view shed, and we can have a look at what those cameras will see. So if we're building those cameras 3 meters tall, are they going to give full coverage along this edge? And we can immediately see that while they do give a good coverage, there are a number of gaps along this boundary that would offer potential access point to poachers coming in from here. And while this is useful within 2 dimensions, it's even better to look at it within 3D. We can actually see what these features are themselves. So for instance, we can see that this is a slight depression from a river that would offer a good access point to a poacher or potential intruder into our national park. And as I just mentioned, we've got the ability now to incorporate feeds from CCTV, but also if you have drones and drone coverage within your organization, we can incorporate the feeds from those UAVs directly into the analysis itself. So if we have this drone here, we can pull that feed directly into ArcGIS Pro and start to have a look at what's actually taking place within our area, all within the same view. We can see the altitude of the sensor itself, and we can also see the target or its viewpoint and what's being taken. In this case, tracking this vehicle here. And this is particularly useful because we can actually capture this information. If we see suspicious activity, if we see somebody on the park that shouldn't be, we can capture that point from the video, and that'll record that location from the video itself. We can record it geographically, and straight away, that is in the ArcGIS ecosystem. We can then take that point, we can share that back to ArcGIS Mission, and that can share that back to Mission Responder. So that encroachment in the parklands, the person out on the ground using the mobile device can know about that within a matter of minutes and be able to respond to that fully. So we can have a look at how we've brought in that raw data and started to build up intelligence from this. So the next steps we've got for this, we started to build up actionable intelligence. The stage we've now got is we're going to have not a data problem anymore, we're going to have a big data problem. It's not that we don't have data, it's that we've got too much data and we don't know how to pick out those signatures or those underlying trends within that. And we'll have a look at a couple of our tools that we can use in order to start to make sense of that information in amongst the noise. So this is a quick example I put together. And this is for crime in Chicago, but it would work in exactly the same way as the incidents that would be captured by ArcGIS Mission. So those arrests, those contacts, those evidence captures that have been made by your park rangers. So on its own, this would just be a massive data. Over a number of years, this could be hundreds, thousands, if not more, points or tracks that have been captured by ArcGIS Mission. And we want to be able to make sense of this. And we can do that, so we can leverage this within the ArcGIS platform using our big data capabilities. On its own, we can just look at symbolizing a data point, but it doesn't tell us very much. There's no trends to be gained from looking at all these raw points. We might want to look at those traditional tools we've got, things like heat maps and kernel density we had a look at before, but again, they might not tell us very much. In this case, we'll look at hotspots. So areas that are statistically having more or less events than would be expected by random chance. And that will give us a good statistical indicator of where the problem indicators in our parkland have been over a period of time. But again, this is just letting us know what's happened geographically. We want to look at this spatial temporally as well. We want to have a look at the trends over time. And we've got some tools within here to be able to do this. In this case, we've run the emerging hotspot tool, and it will give us an indicator of what these areas are like. If it's dark red, the area is intensifying. It's actually getting worse over time. If it's speckled, it's sporadic. Incidents are on and off. We might want to investigate why this is. And the red areas are the problem areas. Those are our persistent areas that are having problems. So those areas of our parkland that are having multiple incidents over multiple years. And while this is useful to view within 2 dimensions, again, it's better to build up a 3D picture to get a better understanding of what's taking place. So we can view these, older incidents towards the bottom, newer months towards the top. We can start to see how those trends are formed over months or if not years. So in this case, we can see the persistent areas towards the center of our area. Also, if we go to the south, we can see an area that wasn't having problems at the start of the year. There's less incidents taking place at the bottom. And actually, activity is intensifying in recent months. So that lets us know there's a problem there and something that we might want to do something about. And again, as I say, this is looking at violent crime in Chicago, but it would work in the exact same way as the incidents that take place within your national park. That these are real world phenomena, and they act in exactly the same way as other real world phenomena. Incidents act in the same way as a disease. They act in the same way as terrorism incident. They act in the same way as fashions. They cluster in space and they cluster in time and they spread. And ultimately, what you need to be able to do is respond to them. And you can't respond to them until you can understand them. And you can't begin to understand them until you can visualize them. And that's what ArcGIS as a software and as a technology allows you to do. So a couple more tools that we've got in order to make sense of those big data problems, particularly useful for intelligence standpoint, is finding co-travelers. So for instance, if you have tracking data such as that would be captured by mission for your park rangers, or potentially if you've been tracking individuals, you might want to look at co-travelers, individuals that have been traveling together. So person A and person B traveling within a set distance from each other over a set time period. And we've got the tools within ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence to be able to do this. Likewise, we've got a way of finding meeting areas. So if you're looking at people are dwelling in a particular location, if you've got people being picked up from your camera feeds or from your drone feeds in certain meeting areas, you want to be able to know when they're dwelling in a certain location where they shouldn't be. This could potentially look at for your park rangers as well. Where are they spending too much time? Where are they pretending having rest periods and not covering the area as they should be? And it can make sense of those big data problems. Likewise, if you're looking into tracking all your animals, moving into edge devices and the Internet of Things, if all your animals are tracked by GPS, you can find where their dwell locations are, where they're stopping for the night, where they're spending any significant amounts of time, all using these tools, and start to pick up signatures in that mass of data. And there's going to be some good examples of this within our FedGIS conference that's going to be taking place in 2 weeks that I hope you can tune in for. Just to give an example of ArcGIS Mission, ArcGIS Pro for Intelligence used over large areas, we've got a drug eradication taking place at the moment along the Bolivia and Colombian border in South America. So over a 60-kilometer stretch of the border, ArcGIS Mission is actually being used to monitor and respond to incidents taking place. Again, this is multiple missions, all managed by the same system and the same enterprise solution. And I'll just move on quickly for time, so we've got time for questions. But the architecture of the solution looks like this. Essentially, you have ArcGIS Enterprise at the back end. You have Mission Server as an optional extra, and that all can be accessed over ArcGIS Web Adapter. And your Mission Responder, again, that's that mobile application. So people using iOS or Android can go in and access that data and that ecosystem and pull data and intelligence to and from the whole ArcGIS platform. And the licensing system requirements I will send on straight after this meeting so people can have a good look at them. As you might already be you might already have some of this capability within your organization with regards to level 1 users. And we can cover that in question and answers at the end. So very quickly, just to go over the benefits again of what these two products working in tandem can give. They allow you to have peer-to-peer communication. They allow you to have a system of record. Again, everything is saved within the ecosystem. Nothing is lost within this. You can perform advanced analytics on top of this. They give you full near real-time situational awareness throughout your whole domain, your whole parkland. One system working off the same solution, and also allow you to give community engagement. You could open some of this up to the general public to access over the web. And again, highlight the benefits of ArcGIS's system. It's one holistic system that allows multiple users, multiple uses, multiple domains. It's a cost solution, no dev work required. This comes off the shelf. Quite often, if there are existing customers, it leverages their existing software and their existing data they're already using and already have. R&D is covered as part of enterprise agreements, and we can bring some industry knowledge and industry expertise, particularly with regards to Pro for Intel, to allow you to perform these workflows and replicate these to the full and bring the full value from the software. So hopefully that's been useful. Thank you very much for your time.